Alright, so today I want to introduce you to the Kingpin ball python. The Kingpin actually consists of two genes, the lesser and the pinstripe. Makes for a really amazing combo. And if you actually work other genes into the Kingpin, you kind of have to be careful because the lesser is in the blue-eyed leucistic complex. So if you take a Kingpin and breed it to something else like a Russo or a Mojave or a Bamboo or something like that, you'll actually get an all-white snake with blue eyes. And the all-white snake completely masks all the other genes. So a lot of people try to avoid making the all-white snake, especially with multi-gene combos. And another kind of a rabbit hole that you go down with the Kingpin, as a matter of fact, I was talking about rabbit holes in some of my earlier videos, how you can make, a whole bunch of multi-gene combos. Sometimes it's really difficult to figure out which snake is which, and when you're actually working with the Kingpin, it's a completely different rabbit hole that you're going down. Essentially what you're doing is you're going down the rabbit hole of slang for different combinations of ball pythons. As a matter of fact, if you make some Kingpin combos, there's actually 6 different names for some of these snakes that are all the same genes, but there's all these different slang names for the same. As a matter of fact, you probably want to watch this video multiple times to kind of wrap your head around all the different slang names for some of these combinations. So today I'm going to jump over the internet and I want to show you the Kingpin and some of the amazing combos that you can make with that combination. Alright, so I'm going to jump over here on Morphmarket.com and I want to start with the lesser ball python. This is what the lesser is, and the lesser is one of the components of the Kingpin. The lesser is in the blue-eyed leucistic complex, so if you actually breed 2 lessers together, you get an all-white snake with blue eyes. And the lesser is kind of interesting. Sometimes you'll see like a lot of striping down the top, and sometimes you don't see any striping at all. Kind of one of the characteristics of the lessers is sometimes you'll see these like little dog bone pattern kind of stripes right on the top of the lesser, and a lot of times the alien heads on the sides are completely transformed into kind of like a keyhole pattern where you can actually take like a skeleton key and put it right in a lock as far as the pattern on the side of the snake. And another component of the Kingpin is the pinstripe. This is the pinstripe, and the pinstripe is one of my favorites. It's actually a dominant mutation. You breed a pinstripe to something else, half the offspring come out as pinstripe. It's basically probably the brightest gold standalone morph that you can get in ball pythons. And if you actually take a lesser and you breed it to a pinstripe, 25% of the time you get a Kingpin. This is what a Kingpin looks like. Pretty amazing combo. It almost looks like kind of a scrambled up pinstripe. We can definitely see the lesser coming in and affecting the pattern on the side of the snake. And things get a little bit more complicated once we move up a little bit and start mixing other genes into the Kingpin. And here's where it gets kind of complicated. This is the pastel, and the pastel is a bright yellow snake, and it's pretty much the bread and butter in the ball python industry. It's really common morph, really inexpensive, and the pastel really brings out a lot of the yellow, and a lot of times it really reduces the pattern on the side of the snake. And if you actually take the pastel and work it into the Kingpin, you actually get a queen pin, which is kind of interesting. You have the kings and the queens, the Kingpin and the queen pin. The only difference between the two is the queen pin has pastel in the mix. And if you actually take a look at the genes on the queen pin, it's the lesser and the pastel and the pinstripe. And as a matter of fact, this particular snake has 6 different common names as far as kind of the slang in ball pythons. It's called the queen pin. Another name you can actually name it is the lesser pastel pinstripe. Another name you can actually name it is, if you actually look at the pastel and the pinstripe together, that is actually a lemon blast. So it's actually also known as the lesser lemon blast. Here's another example of the queen pin, also known as the lesser lemon blast. And there's actually another name for this combination. It's also known as the emperor, which is, it gets really confusing because there's so many different names over here on Morphmarket, so many different slangs. So this one just has the same genes, the lesser, the pastel, and the pinstripe. And the emperor is also known as, take a look at this, the emperor pin. So the emperor pin is the same thing as the emperor pinstripe, the lesser, pastel, and pinstripe, also known as the emperor pinstripe. So you can have the emperor pinstripe, the emperor pin, the queen pin, and the lesser lemon blast, or if you really get technical, it's the lesser pastel pinstripe. gets pretty confusing. So take a look at this. You can actually take the queen pin and add, instead of pastel, you can add 2 copies of the pastel. You actually get a super pastel with the lesser and the pinstripe. This is actually called a Super Emperor pinstripe, and it could also be called the Super Emperor pin, or just the Super Emperor, or you could probably call it I think you can call it the Killer Queen pin as well. It has a lot of different names in this combination. I actually pulled one up over here. Take a look at this one. This is such a beauty. This is so amazing. This is actually the Super Pastel Enchi Lesser Pinstripe. There are a lot of jeans in this combination, and there's a lot of different ways you could actually name this combination. As a matter of fact, you know, this is actually the Super Emperor with the Enchi on top. So it's actually an Enchi Super Emperor, or an Enchi's Super Emperor Pin, or an Enchi's Super Emperor Pinstripe, or I think you could also call it the Enchi Killer Queen Pin. I think you can call it a lot of different names for this snake, and it's kind of interesting searching over here on Morphmarket. You see all these different names for the same snake, and your head just starts spinning with all these different names, and you really have to know all the different names and the way you can actually name the same jeans multiple different times to kind of wrap your head around all the different combinations. So here is where it gets even more complicated. Take a look at this. This is actually the spider ball python. And if you actually take the spider, which is a really awesome morph just by itself, it's actually a dominant mutation. You breed it to something, half the offspring come out as spider. And kind of one of the things you really have to watch out with spider is you really don't want to breed 2 spiders together. So if you have 2 snakes that even contain the spider, you want to avoid breeding them together, because if you actually get the super spider, a lot of people say it's a lethal combination, and some people that have actually produced it say you can actually end up with a severe head wobble or some neurological issues. But if you actually take the spider and you work it into the kingpin, this is what you get. You actually get a king spin, which is it's so close in name to the kingpin. So the kingpin and the king spin, it's just the addition of S, changing the pin to a spin, makes for a really amazing combination. It's just 3 genes: the lesser, the pinstripe, and the spider. And here's another name for the king spin. It's also called a spinner lesser, which is a little bit confusing, has the same exact genes. So if you actually take a look at the genes and kind of break them down, the lesser and the pinstripe is the kingpins. So if you have the spider, it's the king spin or the spider kingpin. But if you actually look at the spider and the pinstripe, that is called a spinner. So a lot of times you'll see spinners, you know, different spinner combinations. That's the pinstripe and the spider. So in this case, you could also name it the lesser spinner or the spinner lesser. And it's kind of interesting. I don't know if there's any kind of a, you know, a lot of people say, all right, I have a lesser spinner. Should I name it spinner lesser or lesser spinner? And a lot of people just kind of mix up the names. I don't think there's any kind of a rule as far as which name comes first, especially if you're just naming them all the different genes. I think you could just name them in any random order. I don't think it's like alphabetical or there's any kind of structure to naming ball pythons. All right, here's another kind of confusing thing. You can actually have king spins and you can also have queen spins. This is like a queen pin with a spider. They call it a queen spin. It gets a little bit complicated. Actually, it gets really complicated at this point, because essentially what you have here is you have a spider emperor, which is also called a spider emperor pin, or a spider emperor pinstripe, also called a queen spin. It makes your head spin after you look at all the different names for all these different combos. It's pretty amazing. And take a look at this. You can also have a killer queen spin, which is, you know, killer is a shortcut for super pastel. So you should actually have the super pastel. So this is actually the spider super emperor, or spider super emperor pin, or spider super emperor pinstripe, or the killer queen spin. You have all these different names for these snakes. It gets a little bit overwhelming if you're actually kind of breaking it down and looking at all the different names for all these different combos. So let's go back to the beginning. I kind of wanted to show you just the Kingpin and then add other jeans into the Kingpin. I wanted to start with the Leopard, and believe it or not, you actually add Leopard to the Kingpin and you get another slang that is totally different than everything we looked at. It just gets really deep down the rabbit hole when you're going down the Kingpin rabbit hole. This is actually a Leopard ball python. The Leopard is considered, I can kind of consider it like a pseudo dark morph. If you actually work it into jeans or other combinations that have a lot of dark in the ball python, it'll really darken the darks. But if you actually breed it into something like a coral glow, it doesn't really darken the snake. It's kind of an interesting anomaly with the Leopard. And I would say in all cases, the Leopard really scrambles up the pattern, and you mix it with the right genes and it makes the pattern really explode. And this is what happens if you take Leopard and you work it into a Kingpin. You actually get what is known as an ocelot. It's just, you know, just another slang that you actually have to remember. And remember, you know, this is actually the lesser and the pinstripe, which is the Kingpin with the Leopard into it. And just take a look at the kind of the crazy pattern all along the sides of this. I really like how it has a really strong stripe right down the top, and then the sides are almost completely shattered. Almost kind of reminds me of a monsoon ball python, one of the new genes that is kind of gaining popularity, one of the recessive mutations that I think Dave Green actually produced the first one. And this is probably as close as you can get to a monsoon, which is the ocelot. So here is the GHI. The GHI is another dark morph. It stands for gotta have it. And if you actually work it into other combos, a lot of times what it'll do is it'll darken the whole background of the snake. Kind of unlike the Leopard, it'll actually darken almost any combo that you mix it with. And it also really jumbles up the pattern. Here's what happens if you mix GHI with the Kingpin. Take a look at this snake. This is actually the GHI Pinstripe Lesser, or GHI Kingpin. And it seems like every single one I look at, it almost has this metallic looking sheen to it. Almost doesn't even look real. And in this case, it almost looks like the sides are completely different. Like it's almost kind of made out of cloth on the sides and maybe metal on the top. Makes for a really amazing combination. Here is an Enchi ball python. The Enchi is, I'd say, as far as numbers, just the sheer numbers over on Morphmarket, I'd say there's probably more Enchis than any other gene over on Morphmarket. The Enchi actually reduces the pattern. In a lot of cases, it actually brings out a lot of oranges and yellows when you mix it into a lot of combos. And here's what happens if you mix Enchi in with the Kingpin. And take a look at this. I think this is one of my favorite Kingpin combos, working Enchi in the mix. And it really reduces the pattern. You can definitely tell it's really reduced and really almost makes lines up and down, almost like stripes on the side of the snake. And this is actually the Enchi, Lesser, and the Pinstripe. The Lesser and the Pinstripe is the Kingpin. So here is the Cinnamon. The Cinnamon works really well with the Kingpin too. The Cinnamon is another dark morph. As a matter of fact, if you breed two Cinnamons together, you get an almost completely black snake that is patternless. And the Cinnamon's also allelic with black pastel. So if you breed Cinnamon and black pastel together, you get what is known as an 8-ball, which is even darker, completely patternless, almost a black snake. And here's what happens if you mix Cinnamon in with the Kingpin. Take a look at this snake. This is really awesome. I really like kind of the two-tone on the side, and you get this really jagged line up on the top. This is the Cinnamon Kingpin. Here is the banana. The banana is another co-dominant morph. You actually breed two bananas together and you get a super banana, which looks almost like the banana, just a little bit fainter in color. And if you actually take banana and work it into the Kingpin, this is what you get. You get a banana Kingpin. I really like this. You can actually see the banana and the lesser and the pinstripe really kind of working together. A lot of times if you work banana into other combos, a lot of times the banana is really visually dominant, and sometimes it just overwhelms all the other genes in the snake. And this really complements all three genes together, makes for a really amazing combo. As a matter of fact, I actually pulled out this other snake. This is actually the banana, the cinnamon, and the Kingpin together. Look at this snake. This is one of the most amazing that I've seen. It has this really awesome line right down the top. And this is actually called a banana lesser cinnapin, which is kind of an interesting name. It could also be called the banana cinnamon Kingpin. So even when you get multiple genes in here, it can get really confusing because there's a lot of different slangs. You can also name it the banana cinnamon lesser pinstripe, which is probably the easiest because then everybody knows exactly what genes are in the mix. So I want to pull up one last snake here. This is kind of an interesting anomaly. The lesser is also considered to be the same gene as the butter. So the butter and the lesser is almost, a lot of people say it's the same thing. A lot of people separate the butter and the lesser when they're actually making combos. As a matter of fact, if you come over here and look at the butter pinstripe, which would be like the butter version of the Kingpin, I've actually seen a couple people actually naming kingpins for butter pinstripe, although most people say it would be the lesser and the pinstripe. In this case, this is actually the pastel butter pinstripe. This also has yellow belly in it, but this would actually be the queen pin, the butter version of the queen pin, or like a butter emperor or emperor pin or butter emperor pinstripe or something like that. And a lot of people actually come over here and they're actually trying to, it gets a little bit confusing because people will make like a butter emperor, like the butter version of an emperor, and a lot of times they'll put both genes, the butter and the lesser, in Morphmarket over here. But keep in mind, if you actually have butter and lesser in the same snake, essentially you have an all white snake that has no pattern and has blue eyes. So a lot of times you'll actually see a lot of combos like this that are marked as like a butter kingpin, and they're not white snakes, and that means they have the butter version of the kingpin in the snake. All right, so it is time for the question of the day. And Michael Haywood asks, how do you get a 66% het? And that is a very good question. Especially when we're talking about het or heterozygous and percentages, we're talking about recessive genes and the chances that it actually has one copy of the gene. So for example, if you actually had an albino ball python that actually looked like an albino, that snake actually has 2 copies of the albino gene. And if you actually breed it to something else, all the offspring end up with 1 copy of the albino gene, even though you can't visually see that. 100% of the time they'll actually get it. So we call that 100% het for albino. We know 100% of all the offspring actually have 1 copy of the albino gene. And to get the 66% het, essentially what you do is you take 200% and breed them together. And if you actually miss the visual, the odds of that having 1 copy of the albino gene is actually 66%. That's where you get the 66% het for albino. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.